I never expected a broken-down scooter on a remote, rain-slicked road in Palawan to reshape my entire worldview. My name is Julian. I am a photojournalist from Chicago. By the time I arrived in the Philippines, I had traveled to over 40 countries. I thought I had seen it all. I was accustomed to the transactional nature of modern travel. You pay for a service, you get it, and you move on. But what I experienced in the Philippines was something entirely different. It was an overwhelming wave of pure, unfiltered humanity that left me deeply humbled. It was late October. The monsoon season was throwing its final, unpredictable tantrums. I had rented a beaten-up semi-automatic scooter in Puerto Princesa. My goal was to drive north toward El Nido, taking the scenic, less-traveled coastal routes to capture the raw beauty of the countryside. The first few hours were spectacular. I rode through tunnels of emerald green palm trees. I saw majestic limestone cliffs piercing the heavy, gray clouds. Then, the sky opened up. It did not just rain, the heavens unleashed a blinding wall of water. Within minutes, the dirt road transformed into a treacherous river of thick, red mud. I lowered my speed, blinking against the stinging droplets. Suddenly, my scooter let out a horrific metallic screech. The rear wheel locked up violently. I skidded across the mud, barely managing to keep the bike upright before it sputtered and died completely. I was stranded. My phone had no signal. The rain was deafening. I was completely soaked to the bone, standing in the middle of nowhere with a useless piece of metal. I felt a familiar surge of panic and frustration. In many parts of the world, a stranded, wealthy-looking foreigner is seen as a financial opportunity or, worse, a target. I braced myself for a long, miserable ordeal. Through the curtain of rain, I saw a small, weathered wooden house on stilts, a traditional Bahay kubo. It sat nestled under a massive mango tree. A faint, warm yellow light flickered from the window. Before I could even decide whether to walk over, a figure emerged from the porch. It was a slender Filipino man wearing a faded t-shirt and slippers. He did not hesitate. He ran straight out into the torrential pouring rain toward me. He had a massive, bright smile on his face, as if he were greeting an old friend instead of a shivering, mud-covered stranger. "Hey, friend. Come inside, come inside." "Heavy rain," he shouted over the storm. His name was Lando. He was a local fisherman who lived there with his wife, Elena, and their 3 young children. Lando immediately helped me push my heavy, mud-caked scooter under the shelter of his overhanging roof. He did not ask who I was, where I came from, or if I had money. His immediate, instinctive reaction was simply to protect another human being from the elements. When I stepped into their tiny home, I was struck by its simplicity. The floor was made of split bamboo slats, polished smooth by years of footsteps. There was very little furniture, a small wooden table, a few plastic chairs, and a modest altar with a statue of the Santo Niño. It was a home stripped of luxury, yet it felt incredibly warm. Elena rushed over with a clean, dry towel and a worn but spotless oversized jersey. "Change into this, sir. You will catch a cold," she said, her voice laced with genuine motherly concern. I tried to decline, feeling intensely guilty for tracking mud onto their clean floor, but she absolutely insisted. As I changed in their small bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. I felt a sudden pang of shame for my initial cynicism. These people had next to nothing, yet their first instinct was to strip away their own comfort to provide for mine. When I came out, Lando was already working on my scooter out on the porch, completely ignoring the rain spraying over him. I sat down at the small table, and Elena placed a steaming tin mug in front of me. It was Barako coffee, sweet and intensely strong. Alongside it was a small plate of baiko, a sweet, sticky rice cake. "Eat, eat," Elena urged, smiling warmly as she rocked her youngest baby to sleep. Through our conversation, I learned about their life. Lando made a living from his daily catch, which had been meager lately due to the rough seas. Elena managed the household and wove mats to sell at the local market. They faced immense daily hardships. Yet, as they spoke, there was absolutely no bitterness in their voices. They laughed easily, their eyes crinkling with genuine joy. They spoke of their life not with dissatisfaction, but with deep gratitude for their health and their family. An hour later, Lando walked back inside, dripping wet but triumphant. His hands were covered in black grease. Chain dropped and jammed, friend. But I fix it now. Ready to go later, he said, wiping his brow with his forearm. I was ecstatic. I reached for my waterproof backpack, intending to pull out a handful of pesos to reward him for his hard labor and their incredible hospitality. I pulled out a 1,000 peso bill, a significant amount of money in the rural provinces, and extended it toward Lando. The shift in the room's atmosphere was instantaneous, and it is a moment I will never forget. Lando's smile gently faded. He did not look angry, instead, a look of profound humility and slight embarrassment crossed his face. He gently took my hand and pushed the money back toward me. He shook his head slowly. No, sir. No money, Lando said softly, his voice incredibly earnest. We help because you need help. Not for money. Filipinos help friends. I stood there, completely paralyzed. In my world, everything had a price tag. Kindness was often viewed as an investment or a transaction. But to Lando, helping a stranded traveler was a fundamental human duty. Charging me for his kindness would have compromised his dignity and the purity of his gesture. His humility was not a sign of weakness, it was an immense, quiet strength. It was a profound declaration that human connection is worth infinitely more than paper currency. The rain eventually subsided into a soft, gentle drizzle. The afternoon sun began to break through the clouds, casting a breathtaking golden light over the wet palm trees. It was time for me to resume my journey. Elena packed the remaining rice cakes into a clean plastic bag and handed them to me for the road. Lando kick-started my scooter, ensuring the engine hummed smoothly. As I climbed onto the bike, I felt a heavy lump forming in my throat. I had traveled the world looking for spectacular sights to photograph, but the most beautiful thing I had ever witnessed was sitting right inside this humble bamboo house. I realized that wealth has absolutely nothing to do with bank accounts. Lando and Elena were some of the richest people I had ever met in my entire life. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Thank you for everything. Lando clapped me on the shoulder, his bright, radiant smile returning. Bayanihan, friend, he said, using a word I would only fully understand later. Safe travels. I drove away into the golden afternoon, watching their waving figures shrink in my rearview mirror. The word Bayanihan, I later learned, refers to the communal spirit of unity and cooperation, of helping one's neighbor without expecting anything in return. That rainy afternoon in Palawan completely changed me. It stripped away my hardened, big city cynicism and replaced it with a renewed faith in humanity. The Filipinos taught me that true kindness does not require abundance. It only requires an open heart. Years have passed since that trip, but whenever the world feels cold and transactional, I close my eyes and remember the warm light of a bamboo hut, the smell of strong coffee, and the beautiful humility of a fisherman who reminded me what it truly means to be human.